matters that have come up over the weekend, and also what the status quo is of the place we call home. Indeed, some of the news will always get us riled up, and others maybe feel good. Let's find out. The South African Union of Students says the National Prosecuting Authority pursuit of criminal charges against Trusenz for urinating on another student's belongings will be a lesson to others. The NPA announced Thursday that it will open a criminal case against former Stellenbosch students. The NPA spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila said 2 charges would be pursued against Dutoit. These charges are malicious damage to property and criminal injury, but we've instructed the investigating officer to finalize his investigation before the matter is placed on the roll. In May, a video of Dutoit urinating on Babalo Ndwanyana's desk made the rounds on social media. The university recently dealt with a second urinating incident where a student who was reportedly intoxicated urinated on his roommate's chair. He was later found guilty and expelled by the university. Black people should not be made to feel like visitors in their land. So we welcome this decision by the NPA, and we hope that through the justice system, a harsh penalty shall be decided upon, said the union's spokesperson, Asive Dlanjwa. Almost a week after they were reported missing, the bodies of a man and his niece were found in the river in El Dorado Park. The 2 were reported missing on Thursday, the 13th of October. They were last seen going to the river in El Dorado Park to perform rituals, according to SAPS Dimakatso Sillo. Sillo said that the 38-year-old Tulani Maishwale and his 22-year-old RCC Poliu's bodies were discovered on the 17th and the 18th of October. They had allegedly drowned. Taking to Twitter on the 14th of October, Mahishwale's partner, Monica Solwandle, shared the images of the missing pair. She led the assistance, she's pleaded for assistance in locating her partner, his niece, and their dog. She wrote on the morning of the 14th, "My partner, niece, and our dog are missing since yesterday. They're driving an Audi A1, red in color. They left the house at 10:38, headed to Lenasia. The last location tracker has Lenasia on it." Later in the afternoon, Solwandle shared an updated on her partner and niece, writing, "We have found the car and the dog waiting next to it, thanks to our dear friend Oscar Balinkulu. My partner and our niece are still missing. Please look out for them." So on Wednesday, the 19th of October, Solwandle took to Twitter once more to share heart-wrenching news with her that her partner and his niece had passed away. "It is with great sadness to announce that my partner and his niece have passed on. Thank you all for your support." Colonel Sillo said the police have opened an inquest docket. The details surrounding the death of the 2 are currently unknown. Taking to social media Friday, Conrad Yankees opened up on the Bok's decision not to consider him for an end-of-year tour, saying he fully understands, while the Bok fly half also stated that he's focused on his mental health to ensure he gets his personal life and career back on track. According to the news, 2 independent sources stated that Yankees had booked himself into a Harmony clinic in Hout Bay a few weeks ago and was treated for drug addiction. Before Friday, Yankees had not spoken publicly since the issuing of the statement several weeks ago, in which he took full responsibility for his actions but did not admit to any allegations on the affair. The dramatic statement came after the experienced fly half and Springbok dietitian Zinat Simji had been released from the Bok camp after reports of an alleged tryst between the 2. While staying at a guest house with Simji in Mbombela before the Bok test against the All Blacks, Yankees offered drugs to a waiter who later complained about the gesture. On Tuesday, Rassie Erasmus had confirmed the embattled Bok fly half will not be considered for the selection at the end of the year, with the director of rugby stating that Yankees had simply not played enough rugby of late. It is 25 minutes after 9 a.m. So, if you think your life is restricted, can you imagine being Kim Jong-un's wife? Huh? Well, it's no secret that North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un loves making headlines. One bizarre story after another about the communist country and the leader is constantly served to the world. There's no expectation in the dictator's family life. There's no exception in the dictator's family life, as his wife, Ri Sol-ju, the First Lady of North Korea, must conform to many extreme traditionalist practices. First of all, Ri Sol-ju and Kim Jong-un were forced to marry each other, according to the Korean Times. The newspaper reported that when Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, had a stroke in 2008, he ordered that his son marry Ri Sol-ju, so there was no questioning the supreme leader. Ri Sol-ju had to leave her birth name behind, becoming Kim Jong-un's wife. Her entire past was deliberately hidden, and her real name and the year of birth are a mystery to the public, according to South Korea's intelligence reports. Can you imagine? It is said that Ri Sol-ju has not seen her parents since she married Kim. It's not that she comes from an obscure family in North Korea. On the contrary, she comes from a wealthy and respected family, according to South Korean news media, which makes restricting her access to her family rather unusual. Her clothing is conservative and needs her husband's approval, according to the news. Though she wears designer clothes and is considered a fashion icon to North Korean women, she's not allowed to wear jeans, even though she wore more Western-style clothing in the days earlier of their marriage. Hectic stuff. It's 27 now after 9 a.m. A lucky FNB customer won 28 million rand in the national lottery last week, drawing suspicion from South Africans who queried why it was just FNB who had winners. As reported, South African website, there is one winner in Wednesday's 19th of October draw. A Facebook post caught the attention of many disgruntled South Africans who are upset at their own banks for not allowing them to have the same opportunities as afforded to FNB customers. The jackpot was won by an FNB customer who played via their banking app. Ituba CEO Charmaine Mabuza reportedly said the banking apps were first contacted by their bank to notify them of their winnings. Afterwards, they were encouraged to proceed to claim their winnings at the nearest Ituba regional offices. Ituba has urged the winner to come forward and claim their winnings, which they will receive tax-free within 72 hours of the claim. Yikes. It's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky implied that claims made by Russia's defense chief during a round of phone calls meant Moscow was setting the stage for deploying a radioactive dirty bomb device on Ukrainian soil. Earlier on Sunday, Sergei Shoigu held phone calls with counterparts from the United States, Britain, France, and Turkey, alleging that Ukraine was preparing a provocation involving a radioactive device. If Russia calls and says that the Ukraine is preparing something, it means one thing. Russia has already prepared all of this, Zelensky said in a television interview. Russia's defense ministry said Shoigu voiced concern about the possible Ukrainian provocations involving a dirty bomb. It doesn't have the devastating effect of a nuclear explosion, but it could expose broad areas to radioactive contamination. It's getting out of hand. It's definitely getting out of hand. Mzansi is gushing over a Pretoria High School for Girls teacher known as Mrs. Bullock doing the robot boys salary challenge on TikTok. Now, the Pretoria High School for Girls, known as the teacher anyway, known as Mrs. Bullock, was doing the dance, and everybody was quite impressed. Mrs. Bullock is seen showing off her amazing dance moves, and pupils pulled out their phones and recorded. One of her students then joins in the dance together, and she notably stuck out her tongue while dancing and made facial expressions that had Mzansi in awe. Of course, those are the feel-good stories that we're talking about. Check that video out. If you're on TikTok, check out Teacher with Tongue Out. It's a very, very funny video, but it shows that, not everything has to be hectic. City of Joburg spokesperson Colin Makubele said dilapidated water infrastructure was the main cause of the water cuts in Gauteng. Speaking during a prayer session at Constance Bapela Council Chambers in Braamfontein, excuse me, Makubela said there had not been enough time dedicated to fixing the aging structures. Just shy of a month ago, Gauteng residents started experiencing water cuts, which were exacerbated by rolling power cuts. Johannesburg Water urged customers to continue reducing consumption and observing Stage 2 water restrictions. The three biggest metros in the province, the city of Joburg, Tshwane, and the city of Ekurhuleni, have all been severely affected. Pipes are bursting even underground where we can't see because they are very old. There have not been concerted effort to make a rejig in these and build new or rebuild or build new ones and channel them. Historically, I think we need to admit as a country that we have not planned very well for the growth that we are experiencing. Meanwhile, Joburg Water says it will be implementing partial restrictions on the two direct water feeds from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This will affect supply to the areas in Veltevreden Park and Allen's Neck. While he's committed to implementing several of more than 300 recommendations to the state capture inquiries, President Cyril Ramaphosa was not ready to sign off on some of the bolder suggestions just yet. Last night, Ramaphosa presented his long-anticipated plan to implement Chief Justice and Commissioner Chair Raymond Zondo's recommendations. One of the standouts from his final report, which was just handed over in June, was a recommendation on the electoral reform to allow the direct election of a president and the adoption of the constituency-based but still proportionally representative electoral system. But Ramaphosa said this required extensive consultation. He was not ready to sign off on a new commission of inquiry into PRASA or the establishment of an independent public procurement anti-corruption agency and permanent anti-corruption commission. The president hasn't ruled anything out just yet. But he did say that due to the far-reaching consequences of the electoral reform and the fact that they would require constitutional amendments, it has to be considered by the political parties represented in parliament, and that an extensive consultation process involving the whole of society was required. These consultations should take account of the broad-based engagement and took place across the country all over before actually going towards the constitution. Stellenbosch University students have varying views on the latest urinating incident reported on campus. At Eendracht residence, student relieved himself inside the room of two fellow students this weekend. The implicated student has been suspended from the residence while an investigation is being handled by the university's Office of Student Discipline. Stellenbosch University said that the campus management were informed of the urinating incident involving a severely intoxicated student during the early hours of Saturday morning. This is the third incident of this nature reported at this campus in the space of 6 months. Some students walking along Victoria Road shared their views on the matter. It's insane that all of this is coming to light. I was speaking to a friend earlier, and I don't believe that this is all happening this year. For some reason, I feel that students feel comfortable enough to speak out. It's disappointing, but it's the norm, I guess. This is Stellenbosch, one student said. Why is this still happening? Another student said. It seems like we haven't learned from our past mistakes. Others feel these acts are being blown out of proportion. Then one says that the media tends to blow it out of proportion. That's definitely a thing. That's a third student who said it. And the university said it would provide an update as soon as they were aware when this would all be going down.
We are extraterrestrial. We are KNR.
Red Bull and the FIA have agreed on the penalty for the team's budget cap infringement, but the announcement has been postponed following the death of Dietrich Mateschitz. That's according to Automoto and Unsport, the publication that broke the news of Red Bull's budget cap breach ahead of the FIA's report into last year's team spending. Muse claimed that the two teams, Red Bull and Aston Martin, had breached their cap for spending. After weeks of speculation and a delay on releasing the findings, the FIA confirmed that Red Bull had committed a minor overspend breach, while Aston Martin's infringement was a procedural one. The team has reportedly agreed to accept the breach and after finding consensus on the penalty. As can now be heard, it's reported that qualifying at the Circuit of the Americas, the cost cap administrators of the FIA and Red Bull had agreed on a penalty behind the scenes. As it were, the floods in Cameroon are just wreaking havoc further afield in this beautiful continent of Africa. The market town of Kuseri in the far north province of Cameroon, close to the border with Chad, has been struggling with major floods for a week. Two regional rivers have the confluence here. The Logoni and the Chari are both and are seeing exceptionally high water levels that are predicted to rise further. Sandbags were used in an attempt to contain the rivers, but for many parts of Kuseri, it was already too late. Homes in the town have been flooded, and people were seen walking through knee-high muddy water, carrying possessions and trying to save them from the floods. Families have been left homeless and have built temporary shelters from sticks and sheets on dry, higher ground. I'm in trouble, told Kuseri resident Buba Vira, whose family had been forced to abandon their home. Heavy rains have caused much damage in August, and again, the situation has become serious due to the rising river floods. The Logoni and the Chari rivers separate Cameroon from the neighboring Chad, which had declared a state of emergency this week to help tackle the crisis.
This is KNR, radio according to you.